Hello everyone and welcome to my Griselma hero guide. Griselma is Gigantic's very own turret hero. She excels at controlling the battlefield that she has set up with her turrets, called portal beasts. In practice, she is very good at defending and solo killing creatures. To start this guide off, I will go over Griselma's abilities and main upgrades first, then I will show you a build order that I found to be useful. I will round this video off with some clips of in-game situations and give you some tips on playing as, with, and against Griselma. So let's get right into it. Griselma's first ability is called Reach Out, and it's a beam attack that deals damage to an enemy every 0.5 seconds. Additionally, Reach Out turns your hands to face and attack the target that you are attacking with Reach Out. Reach Out can be upgraded to apply a shock effect to enemies your hands are attacking, or to turn it into a melee attack that heals and buffs your portal beasts. Reach Out is a fairly standard beam attack much like Vadasi or Zenobia has, but the upgrades make it very different. I would say that the LMB upgrade Griselma takes defines what playstyle she is going for the most. Getting the shock path and either speccing into the heal or the stronger shock shows that she is going to be more aggressive and constantly moving her hands around to harass players and creatures alike. If the Griselma player goes for the melee attack, she is focusing on keeping her hands alive and baiting people into them, playing way more defensive as she can't put herself in a lot of risk to melee people. Definitely watch out for this when playing against Griselma so you can think about how to best counter her according to hers and to your own playstyle. Griselma's second ability is called Portal Beast. It lets Griselma summon a portal beast or a hand that will attack enemies in a cone in front of them. You can have two hands active at the same time. Using RMB when you have two hands up will relocate and fully heal the oldest hand and put the ability on cooldown. The hands can be targeted by allied heals and damage buffs and will last until they die or are relocated. If a hand dies, it will put the skill on an increased cooldown, so make sure to take care of your hands. You can upgrade this skill to make your hands heal and become invisible while idle, or to give allies close to the hands an armor and damage boost. Portal Beast is Griselma's identifying ability, and it provides most of her damage output, and in the case of my build that I will share later in this video, a lot of survivability as well. This is why your number one priority as Griselma is to make sure your hands stay up for as long as possible while being in a good position to consistently do damage. So think about the sidelines of ranged heroes and set up your hands in such a way that people running at you are in between two hands so they can't take them both out at the same time. While it isn't a complete disaster if a hand dies, it does weaken you significantly. So play a bit more careful when the skill is put on cooldown because of a hand that died. When placing hands, also think about what their area of effect is. While using your LMB will turn the hands to face your target, they still turn pretty slowly, so setting up your hands in such a way that they don't have to turn much to attack should be very beneficial. Griselma's third ability, Rift Zone, creates an area on the ground that cracks the armor of enemies. It will also decrease the cooldown for your Portal Beast skill if you summon a hand in the area. It can be upgraded to buff hands you summon in the area or apply extra debuff at the end of duration. Using Q before you place a hand is incredibly important for your ability to get both of your hands summoned in time, and also allows you to quickly relocate your setup if a fight is breaking out. Which is very useful to stay in the action instead of sitting around at a single point for the entire game, which I've seen a ton of people do. Most of the time in fights, you are able to use a single Q to both crack the armor of an enemy and summon a hand in it. This is especially important when trying to take out creatures. Griselma's last normal ability and also her only escaping tool is called Displacement. It makes Griselma move slower, but makes her untargetable and immune to damage for a short period of time, while healing her over the duration. Displacement's upgrades can either give Griselma a short range teleport, or make her summon a portal beast when she uses the skill. Displacement is Griselma's only defensive tool, and is therefore her most valuable cooldown. You have to be really careful about using it, as you can easily use it too early or for no good reason at all, which will leave you very vulnerable to the enemy team. Correct use of this ability can dodge a lot of damage in the form of focuses and other abilities, or pull away the attention of the enemy team from you while you're still doing damage with your hands. The amount of distance you can create with the base skill is very limited as you move at a much slower pace while in the portal. In fights, it's mostly used to dodge high damaging abilities or to stall time for your team to come help you. The Abyss is Griselma's focus and summons a giant portal beast that deals damage and launches people outwards on summon. It then sticks around and attacks enemies that are close to it. Higher focus levels increase the damage on spawn. The Abyss is a really effective focus to split up the enemy team and deal large amounts of damage in a burst. You can use it to stall for time while you're getting your hands set up, or to knock someone into your team while separating that person from the rest of his team. After it's summoned, it continues to be a threat to the enemy that cannot be easily ignored. Now that we know about all Griselma's abilities and upgrades, we can go over a build order. Remember to not blindly copy a build from someone else, but think about the reasons why a certain upgrade is taken. Also take in mind that there might be playstyle differences, so what works for me might not work for you as well. I will start with the core upgrades that define the build. The order after that depends heavily on my team the enemy team composition, and the way the match is shaping up. Because you get level 3 off of just your team summons most of the time, I usually consider the first 3 abilities you take as the base of the build. What upgrades do I really want to have before I come into contact with the enemy team is the question you need to ask. For this build that I call Microwave Griselma, those upgrades are Mark of the Master into Mark of the Survival on your LMB, or your first ability, and Bestial Feast on your second ability. These 3 upgrades give you a really good setup for early team fights and backcapping because of the armor and damage boost on Bestial Feast from your hands, and the additional sustain from Mark of Survival from your LMB. This score gives you the opportunity to play quite far forward with hands backing you up, and not get in too much trouble, and will give you the basis to heal yourself through the initial confrontations on the middle points. Next, I upgrade Rift Zone completely into Portal Call. These upgrades give you a significant initial damage bonus to hands you summon within the area, and reduce the cooldown of Rift Zone. This will make you able to relocate your setup much faster and use your Q to armor crack much more consistently. After Q I get both Fringe Benefits and Lifeline as focus upgrades. Fringe Benefits improves your defenses against your biggest enemy, which are longer range heroes, and will help against getting poked out. Lifeline also has so much synergy with Mark of Survival and Displacement that it is hard to pass up on, as it increases the healing on your escape and increases the healing while actively beaming people. And that will allow you to sustain through a lot of damage. The E upgrades are really up to how the game is going. If you're having a hard time staying alive against several assassins or other melee heroes, definitely pick up on exit strategy to get away from them. But for this build, we want to microwave people, so we're gonna take Conservation of Mass into Gift of Annihilation. These upgrades let you resummon a portal beast when you use your E, and send your hands into a frenzy, drastically increasing their DPS. This gives you way less downtime on dealing damage while trying to dodge abilities or escape. This build is finished up by Bestial Attunement, which slightly increases the power of buffs given to your team while they're near your hands. Now, onto some real game scenarios. In this first one, I pick off Aisling. I notice that no one on the enemy team is near me, and my teammate in comms is telling me a fight is going on our own C point. This prompts me to go and take the creature on D to secure the push for my team. I set up my hands so the Drake cannot hit them at the same time and start taking them out. When Aisling arrives, I use my focus to create distance between me and Aisling and target the creature, which is the higher value target. After taking out the Drake, I use the speed boost from the Rampage to get away. Next up is kind of a rough fight where I get saved really hard by Sven. At the start of this fight, my Q is on cooldown from a small skirmish before it, which makes me unable to put down 2 hands quickly. I probably should have used my 1 hand earlier though. I stay on the outside of the battle in such a way that I can get out at any moment if needed, while constantly dealing damage with LMB. I do get off a pretty decent focus, knocking Taito out of his spin and throwing Gnosis into a position where we can pick him off easily. I then get jumped by Taito and Trip, but I managed to get my E off so I don't get bursted completely. I then focused on Trip with Margrave, so I sustained through Taito's damage. Taito almost gets me down, but Sven saves me from dying to a bleed with a great heal and cleanse. In this final clip, it shows the kind of perfect setup Griselma can have. I get my 2 hands up very early, and Margrave gets off a sick focus. At this point, I probably should have saved up my focus for when the Margrave ultimate CC was over, as I used it a little too early and overlap with a lot of the CC Margrave dealt to the enemy team. I stay near my hands for the armor and damage buffs, and target people that get in the detection range of my hands, so I can damage them. My hands were alive through the entirety of the fight, and I managed to deal a ton of damage thanks to the great setup of my team. As a final segment, here are some tips for playing with and against a Griselma. When you have a Griselma in your team, protect her hands, as she relies on their damage. You can do this by healing them as a Vadasi or Sven, or poke out characters that are trying to take them out from range. Another thing you can do is putting pressure on points to lure the enemy team to them. This is so Griselma can take advantage of that and go back up, as Griselma takes out creatures really fast, so definitely make use of that. Try and bring a super jump to help Griselma escape, such as a Voden jumping pool or a Sven. Griselma is really immobile and has a pretty weak escape mechanism, so super jumps help immensely. It also helps the rest of your team getting to places where you normally wouldn't be able to go. When playing against a Griselma, try to focus fire her hands from range. She can't do much while her hands aren't up. Take them out from a safe distance and then engage on her. When you're a melee character fighting against a Griselma, try to watch the cones of her hands carefully. If you can run around the hands, they can hit you and can damage you, which makes them easy to take out. Well, that's it for this guide. I hope you enjoyed and have picked up on some things to help you play Griselma. You can find a link to the build order in the description, and I want to thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like this video if you liked it, or dislike it if you didn't. Subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on Twitch and Twitter. All these links can be found in the description. And then I hope to see you next time. Bye bye.